Hi, so we're back again with the Suzuki. Things have happened since you've seen it last, obviously. So, petrol tank, I've painted the filler cap in with a aluminium colour, and I don't know if it. Oh, there you are. Remember from earlier on, I'd painted up a load of these little resin bolt heads. So I've just inserted them. That one's gone a bit wonky. Just inserted them around the cap to give it a bit of detail. So if you look at the full-size RGs, that was just bonded on anyway. They didn't have the bolt heads, but it just looks a bit more visually interesting. So that's done and dusted. Obviously, when it's fitted, I'll paint the underside black to hide everything. But I just popped the bolt heads in and blobbed super glue on the underneath. Yep, that nail needs cutting. So that's done. And put that to one side. The fairing we know is done. Back wheel assembly, there was no way of fitting the brake hose for the rear brake pedal, so I carefully drilled into the side of the caliper where there's a little lug for a fitting there, and again drilled into the top of it and just put a little bolt head on that, one of those bolt heads again, to make it look like a banjo union, and glued in a bit of 1/2 mil Tamiya cable, and that'll feed up to the brake pedal. I'll cut that shorter in a bit. For the rear shock absorber, I've just got a little lug of plastic rod, put a line in it, and then again drill the end of it for a bolt so it looks like it's got a banjo union on it. And when this is in place, that'll just plug into the back of that aluminium cylinder there and make it look like the brake reservoir. Again, the foot brake didn't have anywhere for a cable to go on. In reflection, it's probably because it's going to be mainly hidden by the seat cowl. But I've drilled in the top, put a little bit of copper wire, bend that around, and then put some of the kit housing on the end of it there, so I can just plug that bit of cable straight into that, and just touch up the actuator rod with a bit of silver paint, so it's got that chrome look. So nothing sort of mind bending there. Radiator's been given a coat of black. It's a bit patchy, and I'm going to dry brush it, but I quite like that patchy look because it shows the grille. And I will put bolt heads in that before I attach it. So that's that sorted out. Nothing happened there. Front wheel's been primed, so it's ready for a coat of gold. The discs have been primed, and I'm going to spray steel around there. I'll do it freehand so it bleeds over a little bit, because you don't get an even wear, and it just sort of makes it look a bit more ragged. Then I'll touch the bolt heads in with a touch of silver there so they stand out a little bit. So that's all the relatively, that needs a coat of black, I've missed out. That's all the relatively simplistic bits done. So next thing was the exhaust, because I can't put that back on till the exhausts are on, and I can't put the exhaust on till I make sure I've got all the bits and pieces I need around the motor. So to get these looking a little bit weathered and burnt, I started off with, where's the paints I've used, should be organised, gave it a coat of Alclad steel. It's now A-stand. Alclad doesn't exist as such, but Alclad steel. The A-stand painted the same, and I think the numbers are the same, so it'll be a 1112, but check that. And that gave it a nice overall sort of metallic sheen. And then when you look at the real exhausts, wherever there's a weld on the joints of it, that seems to stay quite a bright steel colour. I guess it's because it's thicker, so it doesn't heat up as fast, but everything around it gets heat distorted. So before I did anything, I got some 0.5mm strips of masking tape and wrapped it round any area where there's a change in diameter. I wasn't too prescriptive, just, yeah, okay, that'll be a section, that'll be a section, and just imagined how it'd be done. I didn't really follow any references as such, so clearly with that bend there and that there, that's probably going to be made as a separate lump. That's a separate lump then outwards. So did that, and then wrapped a bit of tape around the exhaust tips, because they look like the separate baffles. So once I'd done that, it was just a case of getting various alclad colours. So there's hot metal blue, violet, and red. And these are more, I don't know if you can see there, they're more of an ink than a paint. So very low pressure setting, very low feed. I just started to stain the exhausts, and again, there's plenty of references online of heat burnt exhausts, but if you look at them, they're really they are believable because they're true, but they're so extreme with the striping and the colours on them, it looks a bit artificial. So or the other extremes, you see museum examples, and these are all a matte black or a semi-gloss black. So I've just used a bit of logic and thought, right, where it's going to be the hottest, you're going to get reds and purples, and it's going to fade back down through the colour spectrum to blues and then a burnt iron. So anywhere where there's a change in diameter or a change in angle, that's where you get the biggest heat build-up. So I've started off by ghosting on a bit of red there, then a bit of purple, then I've worked down to blue at this point, and you can see that all the way along these exhausts, sort of more severe around these points. It's subtle, and it's also pointless, because once this is on the bike with all the fairings on, you're only going to see the tips of them, but I know I've done it and it's good practice. So quite happy with the way they've turned out. They do look like they're heat stained rather than just a lump of plain steel. Then when all that was done, the plain bits in the middle here and around here, I've just given it a coat of where is it? Steel burnt. Oh yeah, burnt iron. This is more of a paint than an ink, so you have to be a bit more gentle, but I've just swaged it in a bit, so you've got some bright bits, some burnt bits. So round, coming up to the exhaust tips there, it's got this burnt iron on it just to darken it up a bit, so it's been heat affected. So quite happy with them, but they're quite fragile, so they'll need to go on the bike soon before I scratch them, because if they're scratched, they're going to be impossible to touch up. It'll be starting all over again. And the other bit is the chrome on the fork legs. I don't know how well you pick this up on camera, but that I'm quite happy. I don't normally have a great deal of success spraying chrome, or I didn't, but I'm using, where are we, this Pro Scale chrome paint. So what you do is you give it a coat of black, any old black will do, doesn't matter, matte, semi-matte, just get a nice smooth coat on. Once that's cured, you give it a coat of this 2K clear, and again, I'm not recommending it. I love this stuff, to be honest. You've got to be aware there's health risks using it. That's the main thing. If you're prepared to accept that, and you've got the ventilation and you've got a face mask and you don't mind using it, then this is by far the best chrome I've ever sprayed. So give it a coat of that, let that cure overnight. They say 6 hours, but you might as well wait overnight. Once that's done, it's 3 coats of chrome, and that'll sort of get, you can't go wrong. You do get a bright finish on it. So that'll give you a chrome like this, but it won't be that hard wearing. Like most of these chrome paints, if you rub them, they wear off, and that's the advantage of this one. After that, you give it a coat of the sealer, which I haven't got the bottle out. Yes, I have. So this is like an acrylic varnish, the sealer. You give it 2 light coats of that. Looks quite thick, but it strays straight out of the can. Straight out of the airbrush. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but you have to wash your airbrush out properly. If you've got any cellulose-based stuff in there, oil-based, it'll clog. So make sure you've stripped your airbrush, cleaned it before you spray that. And you give it 2 light coats of that, and this goes quite dull then. But what it does do is it stops the solvents in the next coat attacking the chrome. So you get that done. Once that's set, you give it another couple of coats of this clear, and it brings the shine back. So then you've got a really hard protected layer over the clear, so you can mess about and hold it. If you're doing something like car bumpers where people tend to pick them up by the bumpers, I've had chrome wear through quite quickly. This one, you can actually get a wax polish and polish it. So it's not fully cured yet, so I might not get these forks done today because I need to mask it to spray these aluminium. But I'm confident in hold it, but I might wait another day just to make sure it's fully hard before I mask it. So that's that. And then at the same time, had to spray that part of the handlebars, so we've got chrome on the tops here. Then I'll mask those off and spray everything black and rubber black and all the various bits and pieces. But you need those chrome tips because in essence they are the fork legs poking right through, so you need the same finish there as you got there, so you get that continuity, of which I've got a slightly different shine to it, but will you see that? I don't know. So I'm quite happy with how that's worked out. Saying that, if I just rub through, no I haven't. I thought rub through, it probably just wasn't as bright to start with. It's just the way the light catches it. So they will eventually plop into there. Did I rub through a bit? But I don't think I have. No, I haven't. It's awkward to see it so shiny. So the next thing I need to do is I need some little hydraulic lines that go from these anti-dive units. They're the wrong way around, but no. These anti-dive units into the calipers. Spray the calipers black, spray the fork legs, then and put the front wheel in that, and we can get the front end on, so there's less likelihood of me touching the chrome bits and wearing through. So that's where we are. So over the course of the day, I'll keep updating this as I do different pieces, and hopefully by the end of the day you'll see it sitting on its wheels for the first time, and then we can start doing things like putting the carburetors and various pipes on it. So that's where we are for now. Thanks for watching. Okay, so first issue of the day is this clutch cover. Fits on all right, everything's fine, but I'll put a photo up on a screen around now, and you can see on the original that it should be at an angle. It's got a location pin in here, so it's not easy to deal with that location pin stop, so you'll have to cut that off. But it should be a little bit more like that with that bolt lining with that lug there. I don't know if I can get it far enough round and still hide that hole where a bolt's meant to be. If I can't, I might have to fudge it and make a bolt. But the reason that's important is if you look at the photo, there's a clutch. Oops, let's put it where it should be actually then, so it doesn't flop over. There's a clutch actuating arm that comes off here, which is fine, but this little lug is meant to be the brake for the outer Bowden cable, so it can pull on it. So that needs to be a lot higher up here, and that needs to be further around, so there's enough leverage to pull the clutch. Now I know there's not a real clutch on it, so in theory it doesn't really matter, but it'd be nice to get it as right as I can. So what I'll need to do is try and trim this little bit off here, or maybe get away with leaving it and have something above that. Then make a little lug and glue it on here, and then the arm that comes off here will line up with it, and then the clutch should work. I'll probably trim that down a bit and try and touch it up. I know it's a magnesium paint over black, so it's quite easy to do. I just don't want to get paint all over the rest of the frame. But I think without having that, and again with the fairing on, you're not going to see it, but if you do look down, you'll notice there's no way of actuating a clutch, so we'll have to do something. So that's something I'll have to work on in my mind over the next 10 minutes. Make the little sort of brackets and then decide what I'm going to do with that lug that's left on the frame. I'm almost certainly going to cut off that location pin, oops, here, so I can spin this round, and I may have to make a little flat disc to go over that hole and put a bolt head on it so it matches in if you're looking in from the side, but we'll see how we get on with that. So that's the next bit I'll be looking at. Meanwhile, the gold paint's drying on the front wheel. I've painted these little water connectors silver. I'll paint the middle bit black and put a Jubilee clip on them, and the discs have been sprayed steel. So we're moving forward. It's just these little bits where you suddenly get caught out. So that's where we are for now. I'll be back soon. Okay, I'm not sure how easily you're going to see all this bit, but where are we? So, need tweezers. Instantly, my bench is a mess, and the things I didn't want to scratch are just lying around. Let's get them out of the way. So, for the actuator, we've got, hopefully that'll focus, a tiny little plastic sliver. I've carved this out a bit of 1mm square styrene strip, so drilled a hole through it there, cross drilled it and put a little bolt in. That'll fall out by the time I paint it, but I'll get a new one in. Then I've whittled down a little piece of styrene rod so it fits through here. Where are we? Plop. So plop there, yeah, that fits through there. And it's slightly oversized because I want it slightly larger on the top, so it's a bit more visible, but I don't want to drill too much into this, and that will fit into that. I'm doing this at a distance so my head doesn't appear on the screen. Fit into that little hole there. You'll see it in a minute. It will fit in there. Come on, you flipping thing. Did a minute ago. Right, yes, it fits in there and it will act like an actuator. So, slightly overscale, but it's got all the salient bits you'd expect, and I've lost that bolt as I said I would. Oh, I'll have just done that, to be honest. I'll pop that bolt back in. But anyway, that'll act like the actuator there, which is how it works. So the next thing I need, don't lose that drill either, is something for the cable to attach to. So when I've finished with photo etch, you never throw it away, then you can find suitable little bits to do. So on this piece of, where are we? Looks like a jerry can holder. It had two little dents in it anyway, so it's way up in it. Had two dents there, so I've drilled those so they can fit in that clevis. Drilled a hole out in the middle for a cable to go through. Then I'll fold that into a U shape and pin that on. Then we can paint that and put that in place, and we know that's good to go. So I'll get that done. I can't really do it on camera because you're really working up close, but I'll get that done and then we'll get it painted up, and then we'll look at shifting it around and making the actual reaction point on the casing. So I'll be back in a minute. Okay, so I'm back again. Less has happened this afternoon than I expected, but I've got more done, if that makes sense. So I've finally made the little clutch actuator. I don't know how well that's going to show. I want to zoom in. If it doesn't look good, I'll take a few still photos. But we've got a pin there that sits inside the clutch casing, a little lever arm, and a little bent photo etch stub there that's going to have the actuating cable going into. These pins I'll cut down at the last minute. I want to keep these ones in to stop that pinging loose, and I'll cut that down after I've painted it, so I've got something to hold on to then and just touch up the little white area that'll be left behind, so that's okay. I've cut off the original sort of simulation of the actuator fork thing now, but I'm not going to bother spraying that. I might make a mess of the frame. That looks like a dirty smudger and get away with it. And then this is a bit of square section I've carved to a half round shape and put a slot in it, so with a Bowden cable the moving bit would be going past there, and that would retain the Bowden cable so it's got something to pull against. So that just needs spraying, trimming down, then gluing on there in line with the actuator. With this, I've trimmed that pin off so it can line up as best I can, and I think I'm going to try and line it up so it covers that hole as much as possible, but without me making new nuts and bolts for it. Otherwise this becomes a never-ending sort of video again, but somewhere like that, yeah, you can see there's a hole there, but only just. And it's canted over more realistically, going up towards where that actuator will be. So I'll give this a quick spray. Sorry, this a quick spray. We'll glue all this on and then see what it looks like. Okay, so I'll be back in a minute. Okay, so that's what we've kind of achieved now. We've got a little clutch. Trying to get in there just to see if I've got too much of a squishy angle. We've got a little clutch actuator in there. We've got a length of clutch cable which will route properly when we've got the carburetors on. A little area to react on. Some plain cable and some black cable coming out. So it's looking a lot more like the original. I'm not 100% happy with it, but I'm not 100% unhappy with it either. It's one I think without it, I'd never be content. But once you get the fairing on, you see a lot of it's hidden anyway. So the bits you can see is the little bolt on the back. You can see it's raised up, which I didn't want. I wanted that a lot flat. Ooh, flatter. And I think I've just, in doing that, damaged something. Or have I? No, everything's good. And it's a lot more like the angle I wanted, actually. Yes, that's fine. So yeah, we've got the actuator on, that clutch cable on. Now we've got that done, and the fiddly bits out the way, I can start to pop the exhausts on, and I mean they just clip on. Where are we? These are the front ones, so that side there, they just clip onto those little lugs there. Got some super glue here rather than anything else in case I have to snap them off again later. Just wang a load of tin super glue in there. That'll hold that. Same on this side. It should just clip in. I was going to put the springs on that hold these into the engine, but yeah, I do some fiddly stuff more than others, and that one was just a fiddle too far for me at the moment. I'm not 100% feeling it. I just want to get on with this. Some things I had to do, like the clutch, things like exhaust springs, no one's going to know about them. So chunk a bit of super glue on that. So those two are almost permanently fixed. The top two, how do they fit? That will go from there. Is it the inside or outside of that? I guess. By the bolt detail, that goes to the outside of it, so we can just squeeze that in. And chunk a bit of thin super glue on that. Having super glue noise, and the same on this one. Now I'm going to leave the frames slightly apart. I do want to glue them together properly before it goes, but I might need a bit of wiggle room to get the rear swinging arm on, so I'll leave them for now. Then I can just squeeze them up later on, and then call that a day on that. So exhausts are now permanently on. Might as well keep going while I'm going, actually. What else do I need? This sits in here, and I've got to, before I fiddle it in too far, I might have shot myself in the foot a bit there by trying to be too clever. Where's my tweezers? Oh, there. I'm not convinced I've made that hose for the suspension long enough. Oh yes, I have. Right. So that should pop into that. And again, we'll put a bit of super glue on that just to hold that in. That should, capillary reaction will pull that into the holes. It doesn't matter, it's gone everywhere. Right, that's that in there. This needs to just wangle up. That's it, got him. That goes in there. So a screw goes through that, and there's a pin that goes through there, which I thought I'd lost and just found. So you can get all this done, then I'll call it a day. I saw it a minute ago. Oh, there it is. I've painted the outer ring of that black because I know it's got to be black, but I haven't done the silver bit in the middle yet because I knew I'd be shoving it through here and it might be a bit problematic. I'll paint that when it's in. It's a bit fiddly, I think. It's got that. Touch up around that later on. It's a bit more exposed than I thought, actually, so it's a bit easier. So I need to get whatever screw goes in there to hold the two halves together. Then the back end is complete. As we said, where the clutch mechanism hasn't been damaged in that lot of faffing about. No, that's good. So let's see what screw we need to put in the back, then we can call it a day on that. Did I put them in here? Nope. Slight delay? No, there's not a slight delay. There we go. Oh, God. Is that a small screw from each side, or is that a long one all the way through? I think it's a small one from each side. Okay. I did say I was going to do some detailed painting on the back of that swing arm, but I haven't. And I probably won't now. I'll probably just try and make it look a bit more lively with washes. So I need a small screwdriver. What have I got? Yeah, that'll do it, I think. Get those out of the way. Desperately try not to scratch the exhaust when they're like this as well. So if my head comes in shot, sorry, or if it doesn't come on in shot, it doesn't matter. That means everything's out of shot, but that's all right. So that screw in here. And I might try and hide that with a couple of bolt heads later on, because that's the one thing that's lets these kits down is the yeah, I think that's right. Is the big old crosshead screws that don't look in any way, shape or form realistic. Don't slip too much. Everything going in is nice. I'm scared of scratching a frame. I'll do. Right. So that's the back end together. The exhaust's on. We've got clutch cable in, which took the bulk of the day. This brake cable, when I figure out how I'm going to route it, it's going to come up and attach. Or brake hose. It's going to attach to that reservoir there, but I'm probably going to go up through here. Maybe even through. This is going to be just guesswork, to be honest. Or maybe I'll go through that. Through there. Bring it around. Cut that off about there. I won't glue this in for now in case I want to reroute it, but this is a sort of route I'm looking at, and then that should just plug into that bit I've left. Unless I've got that bunged up with glue. No, I haven't. Plugs in close enough. And if I'm honest, I probably won't touch that again. I don't know. I will, because it's just pinged out. Why isn't that going in that? Had I not been on camera, that would have just flown in that hole. What's going on there? Probably off camera now anyway, I know. Normally they just plug straight into those. It's about the right diameter. I don't know what's going on here. Let's put that in there. And why? Just give it a little touch with some super glue. A bit of matte varnish will hide that. So okay, we've got the brake connected. We've got dust on the back of it. We've got exhausts on. We need to do something about that. So we'll do it like that. Hoping most of that was on camera, but it was one of these fiddly jobs that you want to just get done quick. Will these line up? Go on, just click in. That's it. You've clicked in. You've clicked in. A little bit of super glue on there. You're never going to see them. They're going to be underneath the seat. So yeah, that's the back end of the Suzuki complete. So we start working forward: carburetors, throttle cables, hoses, radiators. But it's not going to take that long to get that bit together. Then it's coming back, doing the footrests and things like that, which are a bit more laborious and long-winded. But we'll call that one a day and pretend I hadn't just glued my hand to something, but nothing vital. It wasn't the exhaust. I'll call that one a day for now, and then next time you see it, it'll be working forward, and I'll be more confident that the chrome has hardened on these fork legs, so we can start thinking about getting those together. So there, get them out of the way. Though, let's be sensible while I'm on camera so I can see where I've put things. I've definitely got super glue on my hand somewhere. So get these out of the way. We've got this to put away. So we want these two in there, and that in there, well, that in there, and we want the front wheel screw and the steering head screw in there as well, so we don't lose those. And the rest of it can live on top of the box. Right, so now I will stop the video and I'll start to edit this and we can get this put up soon. So thanks for watching this, and so next time it'll be sort of here moving forward to get all the hardware on, get it on its wheels, and then we'll think about the little detail bits like painting up the footrests and putting a few extra little bolts in it here and there. The fairing mountings still have to go on. There's a couple of side poles that come out and hold that in place, but I wanted the front wheel mocked up before I did that to make sure it lined up. So that's where we are, and yeah, give it another week and you'll see some more on it. Okay, thanks.